Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Iconic Voices. My name is John Calicchio. I'm the president and CEO of Icon Capital Group. You can read all about us at www.iconcapg.com. Today, my guest, dear friend of mine, and a great analyst, runs a company by the name of BWS Financial, my good friend, Hamed Khorsand, who's the principal of BWS. How are you, Hamed?
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for joining us. So this is before we get into discussion about independent research for private equity. Let me just go through the disclaimers. So the views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Icon Capital Group. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute recommendation, an offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any securities. Investing involves risk. Icon Capital Group is a FINRA SEC registered broker-dealer. All right, now that we got all the good stuff out of the way, your model is unique. Whereas you as an analyst, you look for uncovered securities and gems among all the thousands of companies that are out there. Another great thing about what you do is that you limit your research. You're silo agnostic. You limit your research to a set list of investor clients, institutional clients, and in that way, there's no dilution to the research that you provide. So when we talk about dilution and visibility, I guess the first question is, how important is independent equity research and in private equity, helping OTC and private issuers establish credibility with sophisticated and institutional investors?
It becomes highly important, especially if you're a small cap. Small cap defined as something under 500 million in market cap. You need that extra support because the market's not going to accept, banker research as independent.
So can third-party research help bridge the information gap that often exists between emerging companies and professional investors? And if so, how?
Oh, definitely. It because independent research, you're providing a little bit of a different aspect of work being done versus what the company is saying. You're trying to independently verify and confirm that this is a sound story, it's a sound company. And so it carries a lot more weight than the company saying everything's okay.
We know many emerging companies struggle to gain exposure beyond the existing shareholder base when they're doing capital raises, especially under the Jobs Act. How do professional prepared independent research, how does that increase a company's visibility and credibility with the investment?
Well, the company themselves needs to be, welcoming to third-party research. A lot of times, if you're on the OTC and you're looking for it, then you would be able to outreach to different, the independent sell side to share the idea of what's going on. A lot of times, what happens is companies that are on the OTC, they're not willing to make that initial outreach to get the visibility in front of the sell side. So now the pressure comes onto the sell side to say, oh, well, let me I find this company in the OTC. This is a great story. Well, there's 6,000 more companies in the OTC compared to the NASDAQ and NYSE.
Yeah, there are a lot of companies. So beyond analyzing financial statements, what type of industry, competitive analysis, market analysis do these investors expect to see in a quality research report? One that would be for a national market exchange company versus a private equity or an OTC company?
But I think with national exchange traded companies, it's more the expectation of, the projections of financials of how is the company going to grow, where is it going to grow. Versus on the private side, a company is still, in a lot of moments, they're still growing at a very accelerated rate. So it's not really a matter of, trying to guess what the next year's revenue is going to be versus if you were a public company.
So it also has to do with the industry that they're in, what the competitors are. Basically the same things you'd find in a research report for a national market exchange and traded company than you would look to find in an OTC or a private equity company.
Oh, definitely. You want to see who the competitors are and where the company fits in the entire scheme of the industry they're playing in.
So should independent research be viewed as a one-time marketing incentive, or should this be part of a greater component of a company's investor relations and capital market strategy?
Oh, no. If a company gains access to third-party research, independent research, they should make an outreach and effort to maintain that coverage. Because once you lose it, then it creates a new whirlwind of issues of, oh, they had coverage. Why was it dropped? What's wrong with the story? So that becomes its own problems for the stock and the stock price and any, subsequent, investor that wants to or thinks that they should buy the stock.
Yeah, so that brings us to the question of a long-term strategy being not only one of visibility, but one of transparency and consistency. So consistent research coverage, it contributes, in your opinion, would it contribute to improved liquidity, broader shareholder awareness, and better access for the company of future rounds of capital over the long term?
It can. I mean, every story is a little different. I always believe that the sell side is important just from getting the story out. A lot of times, if there's no sell side coverage, you have people doing their own work, but then they're at the dilemma of, is my work absolutely correct? Is there someone I could bounce it off? And a lot of times, so that's where ongoing research helps, because okay, now you have a coverage where, okay, I did this work and this analyst is saying this, so it matches up or it doesn't match up, and they can go back and see how it differs when they're doing their own due diligence on a company.
Sure. No, understood. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, listen, Hamed, this is, I think this is really, it's important, I think, when it comes to small cap companies who are looking to raise capital, either early rounds or who are involved in jobs that whether Reg A raises, Reg D, Reg CFs. I think, again, as you said, it goes to the fact that it's greater visibility for them, provides transparency so what their ongoing operations are. And yeah, I do. I think it could aid them in future financing rounds as they look to make the move to a nationally traded exchange.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it's part of the entire Wall Street formula.
Well, you have been doing that formula for well over 25 years now and been extremely successful with it. I appreciate you taking some time this afternoon to go over this. Continued success. Don't be a stranger down in Orange County. I hope to see you soon. And again, if you want to learn a little bit more, check us out at www.iconcapg.com. If you have any questions for myself or even for Hamed, shoot them at info@iconcapg.com. Be sure to check us out on YouTube and social media. And again, thank you for spending some time with us. Hamed, thanks again, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, John. Nice to see you.
Good seeing you, pal. Bye.